This week, the London housing market has been under the spotlight with house prices flatlining and stalling. Got people around me here. I did a little sample of people working at BBC Radio London going out to try places. It's up for 300. I put in an offer of 280. That's always an indicator that it is what we call a buyer's market. Seller's market is when they start putting in bids and all of that. But I am reading various reports about how it's flatlining. Things aren't increasing the way they used to. And I can't believe, honestly, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can't. I don't know that it's necessarily such a bad thing. Because if they keep going up the way they have, who would be able to afford a house? Unless you're some kind of investor. I remember Cabby telling me he had a couple of Germans in and they were coming from a pension group and they were all investing their pensions in order to buy property so that it goes up in value and they get a rental at the same time. It's not just investment, is it? Can't just be. So if you try to buy somewhere, are you buying somewhere? And if the house prices are flatlining, I can't believe I'm saying this, is that necessarily a bad thing? Jeremy Leaf is a North London estate agent and chartered surveyor. Afternoon to you, Jeremy. What are you seeing on the streets?
Well, believe it or not, you're absolutely right as usual. That is what's happening. And certainly in some price ranges, we are seeing prices actually softening and people regarding that as an opportunity to buy. And in lots of ways, it's not such a bad thing.
Well, so it is a buyer's market?
I think generally, of course, it's always different because someone down someone's street, they're going to call up and say, oh, I had 3 offers on my house today and there's someone else been on the market for 3 months and they can't sell. So it does vary, but generally speaking, it's much more of a buyer's market than it was, say, 6, 9, 12 months ago.
Right. Now, we're always at danger, you and I, of going into anorak territory, and I always try to hold us back. I thought, when I was observing it maybe 5 or 6 months ago, that it was the prime real estate that was slowing down, because that was just going up ridiculously.
Yeah.
But are you saying it's almost everywhere in London, or is location still the most important factor?
Location is a factor, of course, and it is the more expensive properties which are harder to shift, partly because of the stamp duty and the costs of moving. Those are the issues. Nervousness, of course, about the future. Those are other things. But I think if it's we're going to put a particular on a general, we're going to say that the areas which have gone up the furthest and the fastest are the ones that are probably softening the quickest.
Yes, but also, if you and I were doing business, Jeremy, and it became 9th or 10th of November, I'm going to take a little drop because I want to shift it before Crimbo. You know it and I know it.
Yeah, absolutely right. The people who are getting on are the ones that are concentrating on the difference between what they're selling for and what they're buying for, because it's been said that 4 out of 5 sellers are buyers. So therefore, they're concentrating not on the headline figure. People say, oh, I must have 400,000 for my house, otherwise I'm not moving. That's wrong. It's wrong. The best way is to say, yes, I might take a little bit less, but what I'm going to buy, I'm also going to do a little bit better than I thought. Those are the guys that are moving on.
Yeah. In terms of Brexit, and Brexit seems to find its way on every single show in some way, shape or form, what's happening there? We're hearing, nurses not necessarily taking up those positions, lots of people thinking about going home, taking the money with them.
Yep.
Is there any kind of push or pull in regards to Brexit on our housing market?
Very, very much so. What is actually happening, the biggest change is actually the fewer investors, which is what the government wanted to see, and that's more of a level playing field with the first-time buyers. So as you said in your little introduction there's nothing wrong with some of the properties becoming more affordable, particularly for first-time buyers, because the investors are finding that the tenants are just not there because, as you say, the nurses are not coming, the people who are maybe working in the building trade or the retail trade may be coming from Europe. They're nervous about our stance towards Europe, and a lot of people are thinking, maybe I'm not as welcome as I was a year, 2 years ago. I'm going to hold back and not come here. So that's having an effect. People are not renting property so much. So the investors are not buying or renting as many properties, and that's having an effect on prices.
Yeah, before we get carried away, London is still a giant building site, Jeremy.
Yeah, but you look at them. If you look at those places that you walk to work past and you look at the cranes, I challenge you, I bet they are not working every day that they used to.
No, they're not. Funny enough, I walked past a few today and I thought, where are they? We've got no Christmas hats or anything on there.
There's no point in building if you can't sell or let.
What is this, the beginning of something or the end of something?
I think it's the beginning of people being a little bit more realistic. I think there was a lot of overpricing and overvaluing. Of course, in London, there's lots of people who can afford to hang on and say, look, I'll wait a year or two. But in those areas where people are a little bit more challenged in terms of their finance and their lending, those are the areas where people perhaps more on the fringes of London, those are the areas where people are more obliged to sell, and that's where it's happening.
Well, so one more. Last time you came on, I can only describe as an amateur economist coming on, telling me stupid, and I'm sorry to put you in that category with
I would
me.
never say that.
But that's what he was saying.
Oh, not me.
Where there is supply and demand problem, or a supply and demand problem, prices will always grow. More people coming to live in London than there are places to live, ergo prices must go up, or rental prices must go up.
Longer term, I'm sure that is right. If you look at the number of households, and particularly small households, which are being formed every year, it's still comfortably in excess of the new properties which are being created. So we still need medium and longer term more properties, there's no question. But I think we've been too fixated on building and not looking enough at what we have already. And I think there's a lot more supply to come out the wash, in the wash, and I hope in the budget that perhaps the Chancellor recognises that.
Yeah, there's lots of people who are hoping for something in that budget. Jeremy,
things like that.
Yeah, let's see. We'll talk again, Jeremy. Look after yourself. Jeremy Leaf, North London estate agent and chartered surveyor there, talking to us about a buyer's market, no less. 020 40,000. If you have a view, always welcome on this show. We'll get back to talking about Uber, black cab drivers, and why